Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Tim Burchett chews up and spits out this poor, pitiful CNN hostess because she dared to bring up Elon Musk for cutting government waste. She bit off a little more than she could chew. Let's dive in.
Given what we just talked about, Musk's investments with China and billions of dollars before the government, and now, potentially having access to all this private sensitive data and not having full transparency on what is happening with that.
Yes, ma'am.
What information do you actually have on what DOGE is doing with that data? What are your questions? What do you want to know? Certainly, as a member of the oversight, you have some questions.
Well, first of all, Elon Musk, when he owned PayPal, they never had a breach of security. IRS is a nightmare, ma'am. You have folks that still haven't gone back to work 3 or 4 years after COVID. As a United States congressman, I can write a letter of concern over a constituent of mine that's having a problem with the IRS, and it takes up to 6 months for me to get a response.
Look, I'm not saying there's no problems with government agencies or the IRS.
Hold on. You asked me a question.
But you're not answering it.
And the IRS the IRS has hundreds of different groups that have access to this stuff, and yet no one's complained about that. You don't hear
there's checks and balances in place for the specific system. That's not true. Even the IRS, even politicals and the former IRS commissioner who was just on the show yesterday said even he didn't go to it, and it's highly unusual for politicals to have access to that system. Do you not have questions about what they're doing with the data, why they want access to private tax information from Americans? Do you not have those questions as a member of the Oversight Committee?
I have questions. The only reason you'd have questions is if you're doing something crooked. And you're going to see a lot of congressmen with red faces when they follow this paper trail back to members of Congress, ma'am. And that's the bottom line. Where were they fussing the last 3 or 4 years? I mean, we've had these groups different groups have access. Hundreds of different people have access to this that are nowhere in the scope of what needs to be. And yet no one raised one peep about it. Now Elon Musk gets a hold of it, and he's going to do something. He's going to make some changes that need to be made, and you all are pitching a fit.
Congressman, hold on. I want to go to this question because, again, it's not a question of whether waste should be rooted out of the government. So many people agree with that. But now we're seeing it's the way it's being done. The government is trying to claw back several employees who oversaw nuclear weapons after they were fired. They realized, we made a mistake. We need these staffers who oversee nuclear weapons. A professor at the University of Maryland, Don Kettle, who specializes in civil service, told the Washington Post that, yes, the government is likely full of wasteful bloat, but said a clumsy fix is worse than no fix at all, saying it's like going to a meat market, getting a piece of steak, and trying to cut out the fat with a sledgehammer. That would only make a mess of the meat. Do you think, Congressman, that is a fair point, that the way this is being done is clumsy rather than methodical?
Again, you're upset about you're attacking the message carrier, not the results. You talk about nuclear secrets. You had a person who was in charge of nuclear secrets, a man who dressed up as a woman, would go into the airport and steal women's luggage, was overseeing those nuclear secrets under the Biden administration, and I never heard y'all say a peep about that. Again, ma'am,
I don't know anything about that. I'll be transparent.
Elon Musk, you need to look it up. It's all over the internet. It's all over. He was in charge of nuclear secrets. But the question is, this is unrelated
to the people overseeing nuclear weapons being fired. And Elon Musk himself said, we're moving so fast, of course there will be mistakes. The question is, some of these mistakes are really high stakes. Accidentally firing people overseeing nuclear weapons. Do you see that point?
Humans will make mistakes, ma'am, but currently these are bloated programs. You have no-show employees that are angry that they're having to go back to work, that they've moved, and they're not.
No one's disagreeing. There's bloat and waste.
Jobs were.
No one's disagreeing.
Well, then why are y'all not exposing it? Have y'all even talked about, Mozambique? We sent them $10 million for circumcisions. Okay. I mean, goodness gracious, ma'am. Americans are paying
we've been covering at length
salaries.
where the money is
No,
going
you
to.
haven't. You all y'all do is run down Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and you continuously do this, and that's why your ratings are in the tank, ma'am. You
All
need
right,
to jump on
Congressman Tim
board with this
Burchett, we're
thing.
going to leave it
America
there.
is
You better leave it there, because if you keep on going down this rabbit trail, you'll continually show yourself to be completely ineffective at your job as a journalist. Ma'am, if you had any journalistic integrity, you wouldn't be worried about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You'd be wondering why that water was so dark and dirty to begin with. How tough of a concept is it that the moment Donald Trump and Elon Musk bother to take a sledgehammer to the bloated meat. By the way, this is not my analogy. This is some know-nothing professor from the University of Maryland, which, by the way, if you're taking a sledgehammer to meat, that's not a bad idea if you want it tenderized, okay? Dude, that professor, first off, doesn't even sound like he buys his own groceries, okay? And that's a fundamental problem. To the people that don't buy your own groceries, that you get the maid to do it for you, yeah, you could say there's probably a disconnect here, and that's the very kind of people that CNN thinks that it's catering to. Except for the fact that the moment you deviate from that course, those people aren't going to watch you anymore. And that's the real reason CNN is in the tank. If it wasn't for the Atlanta airport down at Hartsfield-Jackson, CNN would not have a market at all, because that's the only airport dumb enough to have CNN on all of its TV sets, okay? That's a real bless your heart kind of moment, because Ted Turner had to give you so much money to prop you up, that now the only people that listen to you think that Captain Planet is the best superhero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, okay? You see the problem here? They don't live in reality, okay? Elon Musk has been tapped by Donald Trump for two very important reasons. One, Musk wants to see the inner workings of the government, so he might be able to get some better defense contracts for Tesla, but more importantly, for SpaceX, which is trying to get us into the future, because NASA has realized that it's really doing absolutely nothing. Remember, Donald Trump was smart enough to create the Space Force. The whole point and purpose of the Space Force isn't to monitor for alien threats, absolutely not. It's to make sure that our satellites are still intact and looking forward to the future when eventually we're going to start moving inside of our own solar system. And I know I'm talking about 20, 30 years in the future here, but eventually the mining of asteroids. This is the kind of planet that Elon Musk wants to live on, where we're moving into the future instead of running away from it with our tail tucked between our legs. Ultimately, those are the two main reasons that Donald Trump and Elon Musk have aligned. And it's not just because Elon Musk bought Twitter and then realized, oh crap, our federal government is now quite literally banning the freedom of speech, because for some insipid reason, the FBI told Twitter back in the 2020 election to bury the Hunter Biden laptop story. Even liberals, liberal journalists like Matt Taibbi, who was persona non grata during the Bush years, is now saying that, hey, remember that government bloat and waste and that terrible corruption, and not to mention trampling of our fundamental rights that was a problem back after the Patriot Act got passed? Yes, those kind of liberals still do exist, but they're now in the Trump administration. They're now aligning with Elon Musk because they've realized that, oh, the party that wants to scale down government has not been the Democrat Party, it's been the Republican Party. Okay, so furthermore, my dad and I were actually talking about this last night. He told me that he actually was a little worried about Elon, and I asked him to explain. And ultimately, what he said was actually kind of profound. I don't want someone outside of the government purview to have our social security numbers, the tax information, all that extra stuff. And I pondered this for a few moments and then just asked him, you remember when I got identity theft at Aaron's, and they kept on hounding me for about a year for an account that wasn't even taken out? As it turns out, someone got a hold of my social security number. And so they took an account out in my name, used my name incorrectly, and then basically defrauded the company. So even Aaron's, all right, a company that specializes in rentals, can use your social security number and have that misused. And then he just kind of thought for himself, you know what? You've got a point. So if Elon Musk is working in the government purview and has access to the information, ask yourself, does Google have this information? The answer is yes. Does the NSA have this information? Absolutely. Does someone down at the bank have this information? The answer is yes. So if you're worried about security, know this. Elon Musk is currently being literally monitored by the government. The CIA and the FBI have been very interested in his dealings, and therefore, they're going to be looking into him, and the moment a red flag gets raised, guess what? The mainstream media is going to jump on that. And that will be the first time in perhaps 5 entire years that the mainstream media got anything right. That's the closest they can get in this situation. Again, that is the best they can do. The mainstream media can only hope to look for potential corruption in Elon Musk, despite the fact that they've had blinders put on them like a horse drawing a cart, and not looking to the left or to the right, and not looking at the glaring waste in our government with your tax dollars. This is an infuriating segment here. And Tim Burchett, I'm surprised he let this hostess off the hook the way he did. He could have done much worse. So no wonder she ended this segment early, because she knows that if she had an ounce of journalistic integrity, she would have done better than Elon Musk decades ago. And they won't do it. And it's partially because the rich white liberals quite literally feast off of this system. People know people in the USAID who have kids working for programs that don't need to be programs at all. That's the problem with our system. It is ultimately a feedback loop of grotesque waste, fraud, and abuse. And how dare Elon Musk and Donald Trump expose it? This is pearl clutching at its worst, and I'm sick of it. So call me back when you actually have a red flag to raise, because right now we're cheering on Elon Musk because he is doing the right thing in exposing the problems in the swamp. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politbro. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one, and go Tim Burchett.